Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. Delighted to have your company. Darren Jackson, Hugh McDonald and Roughie as ever here with me. Don't forget, you can like, share and follow on our Facebook. And if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll get all the latest unique video content. Hopefully you can do that for us. We would be absolutely delighted and forever grateful. Lots to talk about: international football, domestic football as well. And of course, the big questions that you might want to discuss. The Scotland squad has been announced. We'll be looking at it in depth. Can that squad take us to the next step of possibly qualifying for a major finals? It's Israel and then Norway or Serbia on the horizon. So we'll discuss that. And what about Ryan Porteous? He's been included in the Scotland squad. Could he be the man to plug the gap in the centre of Scotland's defence? You can give us your view on that, Ebby's fans. And what about your team domestically? How many players would you like to see added realistically with your budget, and who do you think you're going to lose in this transfer window? And how long will it be before we're shouting Aaron Hickey for Scotland? What a debut for Bologna. Apparently a standing ovation from some of the Bologna fraternity when he walked off the park after 80 minutes. Nice to hear a Scot doing well abroad as ever. So that's just a few of the topics we'll be discussing. The Scotland squad in its entirety. Well, let's have a look at it and see what you make of it, because quite simply, there's been a couple of people added to that squad. Interestingly enough, as I look at it, the main crux of it all appears to be, Roughie, that we have Ryan Porteous in there.
Yeah, I think he's been promoted. He's had a reasonable start to the season. Obviously, the wee run in with Rangers the other week there, but no, I think he's one for the future for me, Peter. I don't think he's ready to go into the first team. I think he will eventually get there, but it's good for a young lad to get introduced to the squad. You know, see what happens when they go away and mixing with the other players. But definitely one for the future, but not for me in the Israel game.
One for the future, Darren.
Yeah, well, I had Ryan at under 19s, and I think there was only one way he was going. Fantastic attitude, incredible attitude for a young kid, and he deserves it. I mean, the Hibs are third in the league. They're going well. They're not conceding goals. I think Ruffy's right. I think being about the first team players in the squad is great. I've obviously spoke about Billy Gilmore doing something like that, and obviously he's injured just now, but that would be great for Ryan. I think he'll go. Ruffy's right. I don't think he'll go right in and play, but deserves it. And as I say, just a born winner on the pitch. He had the run in with Rangers, which maybe look back and just say maybe was a bit wrong, but he's got a bit about himself, and you want that. You want someone with a bit of character, and I'll love it. He loves a challenge, and I don't mean that in a tackle, because he really loves a tackle, but he just loves a challenge to play against the top players.
Yeah, that squad, Marshall, McCrory and McLaughlin are the goalkeepers. Liam Cooper, Declan Gallagher, Scott McKenna out of Nottingham Forest, Stephen O'Donnell back in there, Liam Palmer, Ryan Porteous, Andy Robertson, Greg Taylor in there with Kieran Tierney. And the midfielders, usual players in there. Ryan Jack's back in, John Fleck, Ryan Christie, Stuart Armstrong, John McGinn, Callum McGregor, Kenny McLean and Scott McTominay. Now, up front, we're discussing this as well. Oliver Burke, Lyndon Dykes, Ryan Fraser, Ollie McBurney, Callum Patterson and Lawrence Shanklin. Now, of course, the big hullabaloo ahead of this game was hopefully the manager getting as much time as possible to prepare for the game. But with the Europa League matches pushing Celtic and Rangers to Sundays, Steve Clarke, just has to get on with it.
We knew the SPFL were going to be good to us and try and schedule all the matches on the Friday night. 4 of the games are on Friday, which is great. But you don't want Celtic and Rangers not to be involved in the European playoffs, so the Europa League playoffs, sorry. And they both are, and we wish them well in that, and we hope they get to the group stages as well. So the English boys were always going to be in that sort of scenario where they would be involved in Sunday games, and we've dealt with it before, and we'll deal with it again.
So, is it a case of, Hugh, let's not be looking for excuses on this one, you just have to get on with it?
Yeah, and you just have to go on with it. It doesn't make it easier, Peter, with, people say, well, they play on a Sunday, they can be, at headquarters by Sunday night, etc., etc. But as people know now, it's not as simple as that, because there's things like sports science and there's things like players' recovery time. I would be interested to know precisely when Steve Clarke will have, he'll know, I think, by the weekend, barring injury, what his 11 is for the game. And I would like to know when he would have that 11 altogether on a practice ground, ready to train and play. And it might be, Peter, as abrupt as one day before the game.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at some of the posts on Facebook and some on YouTube as well. People saying this one and that one's not fit to be in the Scotland squad. This one's definitely in. This one should be good. It's a great pub argument. It's a great debate on this, on who really is the business on this. So with that in mind, Roughie, I thought I would pick at least 10 of potentially the starting 11 for Steve Clarke. And I can't quite decide who's going to partner Lyndon Dykes up there. I've put 3 possible options. There might be another couple. Somebody might want to put McBurney or Ollie Burke in there. But Roughie, what do you make of the selection there? Would you tweak it?
No, I wouldn't tweak it that much. I think the goalkeeper, the back 3, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with the midfield. I'd still like to see McBurney getting a chance. We keep hearing about how well he's down south. I'd still like Dykes to be there. I think Dykes and McBurney is a better prospect than just Dykes by himself. Brian Fraser, I'd love to see him producing some of the form that he produces down in England, but I don't think we've seen it yet. But no, I think he would be somebody that could come on and maybe do something a wee bit special. No, Dykes and McBurney up front for me. I'd be a wee bit excited by that.
So you agree with 10 of my selection, but just one you'd add would be McBurney?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. we got there in the end. So, Darren, you played up front. You know what it's like. Is it Dykes, a shoe-in, and then one other?
Peter, I don't think there's any doubt that Ryan Christie's got to play. He scored 2 goals in the last 2 games. Yes, penalties. But he's been flying for Celtic and flying for Scotland. So I don't think there's any doubt about Ryan. For me, Ryan Christie will play. Now, should he play in a 2 with Dykes? He's probably not that player. I think the midfield is very strong. I would probably have Stephen O'Donnell at right back instead of Palmer. I think he's better for me than Palmer. Yes, he put a nice ball in for Dykes' goal in the last game, but I think Stephen O'Donnell's a better player than Palmer. But I think everybody else, I think the back 3 looks fine. And I mean, Robertson's going to play in, as I say, the 3 in the middle, but I don't think there's any doubt that Ryan Christie's got to play.
Well, pick up on that, Hugh. The only reason I put Palmer in there is because, quite simply, he was the one player in the last game that didn't need 2 touches to get the ball under control.
Yeah, and I think what you've got in, if you're a manager as well, and you're Steve Clarke, it's that "what have you done for me lately" kind of thing, and he'll look very fondly at what Palmer's done for him. I mean, I would go I know there's great fitness doubts over Fraser, because he's just come into the Premier League after an extended period on the sidelines. So I think he's more of an option coming on if you want to win the game. But yeah, I can see Palmer, and I agree with Dan. I think you've just got to find somewhere for Christie. Whether that's just playing behind Dykes and that sort of free-flowing sort of number 10 role, or up, I don't think they would play him as part of a 2. I think if he's going for a 2, it'd be McBurney. But I think I think it'd be perverse not to pick Christie.
But picking up on that point that Darren makes there, the reason why I gave 3 options on it, and I think they're the only 3 options. You want McBurney in there, Roughie, but Christie offers not only support for Dykes, but he can drop back into the midfield and do the spade work as well.
Yeah, I couldn't see the side of him asking. Who was the 5 you had in midfield? You had Palmer, you had McTominay, McGregor,
McGinn, Robertson.
Again, but I tell you what, it's a good problem to have. We never had that problem last year or the year before that we're leaving.
Yeah.
We're thinking about leaving players who are top form just now. Christie is in top form. You know, I just feel a striker. I know he's playing well, but I would like to see two strikers. I thought a lot of our good play was Palmer getting on one side and Roberts on the other side. And if there's balls flashing across the goal, you're better having two strikers attacking them than one. You know, and I just think they two have got an eye for goal in the 18-yard box, in the 6-yard area. I think Christie does a lot of his good stuff 18 yards out. You can't take that away from him. But what a problem it is. It's a problem that Scotland have never had before.
Yeah, the only thing I was, you know, before I came on, guys, and I know everybody's, I mean, John Benson says, hi, guys, from sunny Newt-Till. I mean, Newt-Till's always sunny, to be honest with you, John. He says, well done to young Porteous. Tam McManus will be happy. Gary McGurn says, Peter, all the young guns are coming good for Scotland's future. I mean, I look at a lot of it and it's good and it's optimistic, as you said, Roughie. But Hugh, the facts of the matter, and here they are. Ollie Burke, 1 goal last season. Dykes already has scored 2 in 3 games for Queen's Park Rangers. He got 2 for Livy at the start of the season, and he scored 1 for Scotland against the Czech Republic.
Yep.
Elsewhere, Ryan Fraser, 1 goal in the EFL Cup and 1 goal all of last season. McBurney, 6 goals last season and none this season. Callum Patterson, 7 goals last season, nothing this season. I think he's only played 1 game, and that was for Scotland. And Shankland's got 2 goals for Dundee United. So apart from Dykes, we ain't got goal scorers. You know, Christie's the man who potentially could, you know, give us that flexibility to play in 2 different areas.
I think so, but I would make the little caveat with certain ones of them, right? You know, Ryan Fraser and Lawrence Shankland in particular. They've been hit very hard by injury, and you know, so their stats are a bit skewed at the moment. I think, for example, Shankland, you know, we've just saw him come back. There was very much doubts over whether it was Scotland class. He's still to answer those doubts, but I would be in favour, certainly, of giving him a go at one point. I just like the way he scores goals. I like the way that the goal, for example, at the weekend he scores, you know, it looks very, very simple because it is simple, but it's his movement that makes it simple. Find space in the area, was there on the edge of the 6-yard box, no problem at all about finishing it. He's finished his earlier goal, the hooked volley from a corner, excellent goal as well. But it comes back, I don't think there's room for 2 up top at the moment, Peter, if you want to accommodate Christie. Because in your team,
even in this game at Hampden,
no, I don't think there's room up top without. I mean, who are you going to drop, for example, to get McBurney or Shankland alongside Dykes? The only one that we're talking about at the moment, you know, is a minor disagreement, not an important one, is who plays right side of a 5. You know, I'd be quite happy with Palmer. I would advocate, you know, Fraser in many ways as well, but I mean, there's not a big problem there. But you're going to drop McTominay, McGregor, or McGinn is one of your 3 to let Christie play in that 3. I don't think so.
No, definitely not. Steven Smith, I think, sums up the feelings of many, not only on Facebook but YouTube. It's up to Scotland to get us excited before we pay an interest. And I think that's something that I think has dogged the Scotland side over the last few years is apathy. Once you start to get results, I thought there was a real feel-good factor, to be perfectly honest with you, when Gordon Strachan was in there, and it continued all the way. We were so close. I mean, there are games that I think we have gone back over ad nauseum with regards to where it all fell down. But there were certain areas of Gordon Strachan's reign where we almost certainly got excited. I hope we're getting excited in the future. As I selected that side, I thought to myself, I really do hope, as Darren mentioned there with Ryan Porteous, I hope he can get used to the squad, and I hope he can be in the squad for more than a few years to come. Steve Clark's certainly impressed with him.
Ryan was in the squad in November. I thought he trained well with us. He didn't get the chance to play. He comes into the squad this time on the back of a really good start for his club. and I look forward to working with Ryan again.
Yeah, I like his attitude, Roughie. I like somebody who likes a wee bit of a dig and can pass a ball.
Yeah, I think he's improved year on year. I didn't think he had that wee bit of dig in him a couple of years ago. I thought he was just a nice player, who wouldn't put a fear of death into anybody. But obviously after the Rangers game and some of the other stuff, yeah, he looks as if he's got a wee bit of hardness about him. And I think if you're going to be a good centre-half, you've got to have that ruthlessness. He just looks a nice guy, but most centre-halves don't look nice guys. They look like big bullies that are going to batter you about the place. But he can always take that to his game.
Yeah,
Roughie,
absolutely.
Roughie, you've been looking at the wrong person. Ryan's biggest problem is he's actually he has to calm down because he wants to do someone in every tackle he goes into, and nowadays you can't. And that has been Ryan's, even when we were with the 19s. Every tackle he went into, he just put everything into it. He's full body. I mean, brilliant, honestly, to watch. But he's at times he's just going to, because of the rule, he's just going to have to watch himself. But it's good to take a little bit out because I think you struggle to put that into someone.
Yeah. Don't forget, when you are posting a message on Facebook and on YouTube, you can use commas and you can use English words rather than abbreviating them. The only reason I mention that to you is, Hugh, as I read the messages coming in fast and furious on Facebook and I read them on YouTube, Norman Heaney's posted, McGregor will score 4 Scotland, and I thought to myself, wow, he's been a little bit optimistic, when really Norman means he'll score for Scotland. McGregor, of course, is indeed a threat, but a wee comma here and there and a word rather than a number wouldn't go amiss, Norman, but thanks nonetheless. Listen, we hope we can do it, as Steven Smith pointed out there on Facebook feed. We just want to get close and then step over the line and get to Euro 2021, as it will be, Roughie. And I tell you, Roughie, we could make a lot of money if we go to the Euros next year, if we're following Scotland and we go about, because I met up with Hugh today. I saw him just sitting on a park bench in Crow Road reading a paper, and as I was walking past him, I just automatically dropped money into his hat, Roughie, because I just looked at him and I thought, oh, what a sad old character that is as I go to meet Hugh. So just a couple of quid in there and a wee nod as if to say, good luck, son.
Yeah, right. He's only there like 79 every day.
That's right.
Just
You got a nice
like
wee
an
cup of
old
coffee with it.
Oh, absolutely.
It was my first day of officially being an old tosser, because today, Roughie, was my first free flu jag, So I had to go down to Crow Road and build myself up for my first flu jag, my first free flu jag, and £2 for Roughie for a £2 for Peter for a Costa coffee. Other brands are available, of course. So all done, all well.
Of course, I have to say to you, Hugh, to be perfectly honest with you, I wish you wouldn't have said that you were going for the flu jab, because you caused an absolute rammy on here last week. I couldn't believe it on YouTube, because you know what it's like, the conspiracy theorists were out and they were not happy that you were advising them on medical reasons about going for a vaccine, and when the vaccine arrives, they were leathering you. It was unbelievable. I spent half my night just saying to people, we will follow the government rules, we will do what we're told, and you can make up your mind whether you want to have a vaccine or not. But my God, you took an absolute pasting for it last week when we were talking about this whole vaccine thing and people self-isolating and the whole thing. We're still in the middle of it. And of course, the sad thing is I can remember, Roughie, some people, and I'm not gloating, I can remember some people 4 or 5 months ago saying, oh, it'd be great to get fans back in for the Israel game.
Yeah, I think we all thought that, and I think we now all realise that what fans mean to the game, and it's going to be I think that's another plus for Israel to come into our stadium with no fans there. We saw the last time, not under any pressure at all, any vocal pressure anyway. So no, I think we'd all love to have seen fans in, but I think we all have to be realistic and see that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, okay. As far as football's concerned, I did actually watch the best game of the weekend, I think, for certainly in a football sense, from Celtic against Hibs. They were rampant at times, good, quick, fast football from them, and in the end they were too strong for Hibernian. It was an excellent performance from Rangers as well, dismantling Motherwell by 5-1, and of course equally so for Aberdeen up at Dingwall with that 3-0 win over Ross County, albeit couple of penalties thrown in there for good measure. I'm so glad, Hugh, I missed yesterday, and Darren as well. I'm so glad I missed this whole conspiracy theory that was brewing regards to when was the last time Rangers had a penalty. I didn't even know people were actually tracking this sort of thing. So I'm glad I missed it, Darren. I don't know about yourself with these things.
I didn't realise there was that going on about, because I think Tavernier scored a few, but I mean, you can say the penalty law now is just a joke. I mean, the boys' hands down by their side, but it's a penalty because that's the rules now. And I'm not saying Rangers shouldn't have had a penalty, but very, very soft. Boys, Grimshaw's hands against his chest, and it's hit his hand, but well taken by Tavernier, stepped up and put them both away fantastically well.
Yeah. How many players do you think you'll need for your team if you are a Hibs fan, a Motherwell fan, Celtic, Rangers, Dundee United? There's more than a few names being linked with some of the teams I've just mentioned there. Of course, Neil Lennon, I had a chat with him at the weekend and asked him if he was any further forward. What's his plans in this last week of the transfer window in getting someone in?
I speak to Nick every day. You know, he's spinning a few plates on a couple of players. You know, we want to add maybe just one to the squad and keep everybody else. It's going to be fraught. You know, it's the last week of the window, so there could be a lot of people scrambling for players, and you know, we are not immune to that, but we don't want to sell. You know, we don't want to sell anybody, and I think we're quite strong on that at the minute.
This is going to be one heck of a week, Hugh McDonald, for this one, because Edouard's name won't go away, with Crystal Palace again being linked with him. In Cham, even a name that's been suggested for Southampton once again. But nevertheless, if you look at Neil Lennon and you look at that left-back position, Alfie Doughty, now possibly Nicholas Eliasson, or Casper Hoyer from Aarhus, if you're to believe all the speculation. But there's no doubt he needs one as cover in the left-back area.
Absolutely, that'll be his priority, you know. And I think, you know, with the music coming out from various sources, Alfie Doughty's that seems to be the preferred choice, and the one that's maybe further along the line. I mean, the more interesting thing for me is Neil saying, you know, the club's strong and you know, still standing firm and not letting players go, because there's this mad sort of theory. You talked about the Rangers. There's this mad theory that that Celtic want to sell, and Peter Lawwell in particular wants to sell, and that's why people were questioning Edouard's recent performances. In my view, people were questioning Edouard's recent performances because they've been ranked rotten. It's as simple as that. That's why he's been questioned. Celtic would be desperate to hang on to him. There's no truth at all in the fact that Celtic, Lawwell or Neil Lennon want him in the departure lounge. He's absolutely crucial going forward. So I think that's what Neil was trying to reinforce there. You know, let's hang on to what we've got. And that little line, Peter, that you picked up on, that we're very strong on this at the moment, but things change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is the key to all this, Darren. I mean, some Celtic fans certainly don't even like criticism of their star man, but he's not at it. I've watched him. You know, if he's the Edouard of last year, then I'm gobsmacked, because he looks lethargic at times, off the pace, tried to beat men, loses the ball. It's not the man that we witnessed last season.
No, and people will put two and two together that he's wanting away. I just think he's got that in his makeup, Peter. I just think some games he's just not up for it, but then other games he will just absolutely turn it on. And there's no many players that can do that, but he just seems to have that capability of, in a big game, he can just turn it on. I definitely think they need a left back, and I think if they had the chance, if they had the opportunity. Now I think Chams and Rogic are excellent players, but I think to keep Edouard, I would probably lose one of those two guys before I'd lose Edouard. But I wouldn't worry about his manner just now, Edouard's, because I think if he stays, I think when they're all big games, but I think when it matters, he turns up.
Yeah, of course, they've got Griffiths coming back, and he knows himself, Roughie. He's in the last chance saloon. You've got the boy Turnbull, who I was well impressed with at the weekend when he came on for the second half performance. But Griffiths needs to do something soon, Roughie.
He needs to go on the park for a start. He needs to go on the park and show everybody what he can do. And we all know he can score goals. It's just this level of not up to speed that we keep hearing about in the modern day player, and he can't be up to speed. So the only way he can prove everybody that if he thinks he is on the park and scoring goals. So I don't know how far away he is in that one. We'll all just have to wait and see. But certainly with the injuries at the weekend there, Kamal has not really set the head on fire. So you're relying on Edouard, and if he's not producing it, then you've got a problem, because if Griffiths isn't up to speed, then you have really got a problem with the big games that are coming up. But the Turnbull situation is the same as the Scotland situation. For me, it's where do you play him and when do you play him? Because there's no doubt about it, the ability that he had at the week, the touches that he had at the weekend were superb. So somebody's got to tell me where he fits into that Celtic midfield and who's dropping out for him.
Yeah, Ayeti did well again as this penalty box player. I think, Darren, we'll need to get a new identity for Charlie Adam if Ayeti just keeps scoring, because he absolutely slaughtered them at the start. And on the messages here, he gets absolute pelters on a weekly basis, and he's by the way, he's messaging me giving it, I'm under severe pressure here.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know about that, Peter, but I mean, he started really well. Obviously, I think for West Ham, he didn't score a goal, so he's under pressure, and he's coming to a club where it's expected. But is it like any striker? I know myself, it's brilliant to get off to a good start, and 4 goals in 5 games is incredible, and he'll be absolutely gutted that he's got himself an injury. But I think what Roughie and Hugh were saying was right there. Lee was back on the bench. I don't think Neil could have just put him on ahead of Klimala, because that would have knocked the boy's confidence. But I think he will push him so that he's the next one to come in to try and get that partnership again with Edouard, because we know when those two are rocking, it's goals.
Dougie Little, who clearly fits into the camp of thou shalt not criticise Odsonne Edouard, says Edouard is second highest scorer in the league. Poor form. Ha ha! Dougie, I don't know if you've actually managed to get a stream or watch the Celtic games, but believe me, he's poor. It's as simple as by his standards and by the standards that Celtic needed in critical games to get them through to what really is, after all, the absolute cream of European competition, which is the Champions League. This Europa League is the standard below which all Scottish clubs find themselves in right now. And it's something which I think saddens the heart that we have to drop our standards to watch Celtic and Rangers go into it. And again, other Scottish clubs who just can never make it there. They can't get past these qualifiers. The one thing I would say, Hugh, we've already been highly critical of what we've witnessed in Scottish football over the last 6 months, but I know Celtic fans have been looking and thinking they might have a blackout for Sarajevo against Celtic. They wouldn't be able to see the game. Suddenly, you can see it if you've got your season ticket, but that doesn't work for everybody. I mean, I can't believe only the football authorities could be in a situation where thousands upon thousands of fans can't get to a game, are dying to see football while they're, holed up in their house, and at the last minute, I think it's passed to paradise which gets people who've got a season ticket. That's a nonsense, Hugh.
Well, it's certainly, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt about your point. I mean, I'm fully on board with that. I mean, the restrictions placed on. I mean, what other entertainment would you have where there's limit? You know, when it's streaming, there's limitless capacity. Why put a limit on it? You know, in football terms, we know why the season ticket thing had to do, because Sky were wary of just, you know, doing a pay-per-view, because that would obviously negate the value of having a season ticket. But for these one-off games, it does seem daft that, okay, it's a great gesture to give it to season ticket holders, and fair due to every single season ticket holder in Scotland, fair due to them, you know, because they have been the people that are going to keep the lights on. They've paid money for basically watching football on the laptop, and I've got great admiration for that. But maybe a premium price beyond that, give it to the season ticket holders for free. But if you wanted to get it on your own laptop, anything from 15, 20 quid and more revenue in.
Yeah. Hugh, just one wee thing before I get Roughie's thoughts on this. Do you think that most of the Scottish Premiership clubs have a leg to stand on if we continue with no fans, and they'll be looking for a handout soon? Because they've been buying players.
Well, this is the one that's going to make it difficult to go in. You know, it's difficult to go in with the begging bowl, Peter, when you're you know, sort of slipping your hands in your pocket and shoving wads of money in another direction. I mean, we could go on all day about to rationalise this and to come up with reasons for it, but in all things, politics is perception. That's what it is. Politics is all about perception. And if the Scottish Government are sitting there saying, well, why should we give X amount of money to a sport that pays X amount of money out in transfer fees? So I think it's a really difficult one to negotiate.
Yeah, Roughie, I look at Rangers. I thought, impressive at the weekend. The boy Itten hit an absolute screamer in that match against Motherwell. So I presume Stephen Gerrard will just want him to get more games. If he could replicate something like that against Galatasaray, boy, that would be a bonus, not only for Rangers, but I think our coefficient is getting very, very close now, Roughie, to one club going straight into the group stages of the Champions League if Rangers were to pull it off on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm sure Rangers will want that to happen. But first of all, they'll be looking at their own side of it first. You know, they'll be looking at where it can take them. It might be that the boy that scored at the weekend just needs time to settle, but it certainly was a terrific goal. But as I said yesterday, the thing that opened my eyes a wee bit about the Rangers team at the weekend was the substitute bench. I don't think I've ever seen a Rangers substitute bench that strong. And we'll all talk about the Celtics bench, then the strength that they had in the last seasons and coming off the bench. I thought that Rangers bench was pretty impressive at the weekend. Obviously, they still had players out as well. So, no, I think Rangers, for me, just now, going into the two games, will be the more confident to win that. I'm not saying Celtic won't win it, but I think a home advantage with that, you would think they would be able to get through that one.
Yeah, and I was listening to you yesterday, Roughie. You obviously feel as if your two clubs met at the moment, you would be favouring Rangers. Did you pick Rangers to win the title?
No, I didn't. I actually said before the weekend's games, Celtic getting into Hibs and Rangers going to Motherwell. I think if you were a supporter of either of the two teams, as we'll have in every season, it doesn't mean it's going to happen at the end of the season, but at this precise moment in time, I would say the way Celtic are a wee bit shaky at the back, teams are getting chances against them, not one or two chances, 3 or 4 chances, as Hibs proved at the weekend as well. I would think the Rangers forward line would think that they could do some damage to the Celtic defence as it stands at this moment. I'm not saying it's going to be like that for the whole season.
Yeah, we'll give you the right to change your mind, Roughie, now if you want. Do you want to change your mind?
No, I'm still going for Celtic to win the league, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, you reserve the right. I have worked on various networks where people have reserved the right to change their mind. Some as late as April. Anyway, with that in mind, if there's one player I think Rangers cannot afford to lose, it's Kent. I mean, I just don't. I don't buy into or look at the Morelos situation now. It's the longest running saga, which is going nowhere. But Kent, for me, is the man that they just cannot afford to lose, Dan.
Yes, Peter, and I've probably been a little bit critical of him just because I see the ability he's got, and I expect more from him, and he's actually producing this season. I think he should create more goals. I think with the ability he's got, as I said, he should create more and score more goals. But he's definitely started the season extremely well, and it would be a massive blow. I think probably a bigger blow than Morelos losing Kent. So they'll be doing all they can. They'll be hoping that Leeds sign the boy from Manchester United, and don't take him. But as you said at the weekend, Peter, I thought Etan's goals were absolutely excellent. His first one, it was so easy for him to actually, when it was played into him, to take the ball back the park, but just the way he turned and hit the strike. And even the second one, Peter, the ball's come over the defenders, but he was on his toes, and people say, well, it was only from a yard. But it was a great finish as well, and that'll give him massive confidence.
Yeah, Darren, you're an ex-Hibby along with Roughie. Alan Campbell I love the headline this morning, and I'm not having a go at the. In a way, I'm complimenting them, Hugh, the written press. But Darren, the headline this morning is Hibs have Alan Campbell on the radar. It was all along that line, viewing them, and I thought to myself, well, if you're a Motherwell fan, you're ripping the paper up into 1,000 pieces in anger. If you're a headline maker, it's one of those ones. Hibs are having a look at Alan Campbell because he's out of contract at the end of the season. But there's no doubt about it. He's been a shining light for Motherwell.
Well, he started the season incredibly well. And for the Scotland under-21s, I know what Scott Gemmell and Malky Mackay and Peter Houston think of him. They rate him very, very highly. I think we've spoken about him before on the show, that I know he's in, I think, one of the first every morning in the gym. His attitude is absolutely spot on, and he's reaping the rewards now. And you're going back to Hibs, Kyle McManus as well, they were after, and Alan Campbell, so spending money. But he would definitely be an asset for them. But I'm sure he'll stay and probably see out his contract and see what other options he's got.
Well, I'm not going to delve too much into it, but for me, it would be to the detriment of Scott Allen. I know that there are personal things going on in the background. I'd love to see him back playing again. I'm a big fan of Scott Allen, and but obviously the manager at the moment is going to try and make contingency plans. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see which type of player he likes to buy. He likes to buy Hugh players who will, work their socks off as well, but with a wee bit of craft.
Yeah, I think it's, you always can not only see what a manager likes when he buys players, but who he promotes from within is always a good thing. Players that have been on the books there and get their chance under a manager, there's always a reason for that. Ross is a very modern manager, and the modern managers now are all about looking at kilometres run, challenges won, fast sprints, etc., because it's now an absolutely physical game, and there's no apology for that. The harder that you work, the better chance you're in a team. And actually, to be frank with you now, see with top teams, you can look at the rosters of top teams, and there's no, for example, you look at Liverpool last night, Peter, you can say to yourself, one of the most lovely players you'll ever see is Shaqiri. But Shaqiri's not going to get into that team, is he? No matter how good he is technically. And you can replicate Shaqiri's name across so many teams. It's just nowadays, absolute 100% hard work is a minimal, and then you add anything else onto that.
Yeah, Niall's a big Motherwell fan. He says Alan Campbell is better than Hibs. He won't go there. It's just paper talk. He'll stay and sign a new deal. Niall, I hope you are right. Motherwell, it was a bad result at the weekend. I thought they were just starting to come out of that poor start to the season. But we shall wait and we shall find out. I'm going to try and read as many of your points as possible. Ian Cairns says Jack Ross is a good young Scottish manager. Yeah, absolutely. I certainly like the way, Ian, that Hibs play football. They've got a number of really good players in there. Roughie, the other boy, Newell, hasn't really received too many of the plaudits, unless I'm mistaken. I like the look of him as well. He's got a sweet left foot.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. I think the Rangers game and the game at the weekend, it looked as if he had a wee trick. But it's amazing how much Hibs have changed. You know, you spoke about Scott Allen there, and the main people were Scott Allen and the boy Mallon with McGee in there. He's went down a different approach now. It's different kind of players, different style. Maybe that's why he's looking at the wee boy from Motherwell. Maybe he's looking for a wee bit of craft in there, where these two have a lot more strength, Newell and Gogic. They definitely have put a steel in there, but I still think you need somebody with a wee bit of magic just to turn some defences.
Yeah, and again, Kenny Whitson's just alluded to what I was talking about. Rumours, obviously, in Edinburgh that Scott Allen has, health problems and he faces a battle. We've all heard them. I just think when you look at the boy and the way he plays football, that's the way I like to see players playing football. So I hope, fingers crossed, that he's back playing football. But I think there's a mountain to climb. Anyway, lots of other players. Darren, Dundee United, trying to get Mark McNulty on a loan. He was a former Hibs player, still 28, can't get a game for Reading. Might as well be up in Scotland playing regularly rather than kicking his heels down there.
I was speaking about him coming to Blackpool, Peter. We spoke about Mark, and I actually had a conversation with him. But yeah, listen, when he went down, he scored goals for Livingston, and he went down. But I think when he came back a better player. The way he holds the ball in, the way he works defenders, he'll always score goals. So I think it would be a good one for Dundee United. I think you could actually play with Shanklands, the two of them together. They probably look quite similar, but I think Mark's better at holding the ball in and linking the play. But they both scored goals, so I think it would be a really good one for Dundee United.
Yeah, interesting now that people are trying to do deals left, right, and centre. Again, listen, squads need to be strengthened. One of them that we alluded to last week, Roughie, but Steven Naismith didn't bite, although we knew there was something rumbling with Halliday at Hearts.
Yeah, as I say, we played them last Saturday, and they have got a strong squad, and this just adds to their squad. A bit of experience. He can play in a lot of positions along the back. And he'll think he's got something to prove. Being obviously moved on for Rangers, he'll want to show everybody that he is a quality player, and I think Hearts will get the better of them. And I think it's a tremendous sign, and it just strengthens everything that Hearts are going to do this year.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, Hugh. I like Halliday as a player. I think he's, sometimes I think when you're in the Goldfish Bowl of Glasgow, when you play in Old Firm games, you can get absolute pelters just because of your desire to play for the jersey, and if it doesn't work out right, then, one set of fans give you a real going over. But Halliday, for me, was one of those boys who I thought put himself in the firing line because he would play anywhere for Rangers. And at times at left back, I don't see him as left back. He maybe got himself exposed, but I do see him as a good central midfielder for a team.
Oh, yeah, undoubtedly, Peter, and certainly in the Championship. I mean, we were talking before the show about, just before we were waiting for the engines to rev up, the air conditioning to come on, Peter, that we were talking away. And you look at Hearts' team, and you would see, honestly, we did the same thing last season with the Hearts team when we looked at the recruitment. But if you looked at the Hearts team down the recruitment and the season, I mean, you would be saying to yourself, this is a very strong Premiership team, never mind the Championship. I mean, the quality they've got in that team is. I mean, let's be honest about it, Peter. Frankly, it's better, much better than the Championship. The quality they've got there is above Championship level.
Yeah, and of course, if we listen to your manager, Aristotle Roughie, then Hearts are a top 6 Premier League side.
Yeah, well, certainly on the evidence of the weekend, they were very, very good, minus a lot of players. I don't know about top 6, but certainly, as we all know, that managers like to throw a wee line in here and there, and certainly they were better than us. They had better players, they had more experienced players, as Hugh spoke there. But no, it was good to get a run out, good to see new players up front, and I still think Hearts are in for a very, very good season.
Yeah, I must admit, McCall's comedy gold, Hugh. I mean, he's absolutely magnificent. He's the only thing that's missing is Bamber Gascoigne going, McCall, Glasgow University. For the answer to how you put the atom together. It's just unbelievable, isn't it?
I thought you were going to say he was the presenter. Rather than the contestant.
Mate, can I tell you something? He's like that at the five-a-sides as well. It's always me. I'm waiting for him to stop the game and tell us what I should have done with the ball. I mean, he's unbelievable. I watched the interview yesterday and I went, that's just him to a T, by the way. He's as if he scratches the chin and then imparts his knowledge on you, Hugh.
It's like it gave us his starter for 10 yesterday. All headline writers in the world, all journalists in the world are always very grateful to have an Ian McCall behind the microphone answering questions. I mean, top 6 in the Premiership is pushing it. Let's be honest. But I'll tell you one thing. I mean, that Hearts team in the Championship. Come on. I mean, it's just on paper. I know the great line is we don't play on paper, but on paper, I mean that's a seriously good outfit.
Wait a minute. Darren's wanting to tell us something about Hearts. Come on, Darren. Come on, push yourself out there. What did you say at the beginning?
Listen, Roughie, I'll put it out there. I just think for the players they've got, and this is a very, very hard thing to do, obviously. But I think with the players they've got, I think they could go the season unbeaten. I do. I think it's extremely hard, and that's not putting pressure on them. I just think see the forward players who played up with Boys. Did you say, Roughie?
Boys. Naismith played off Whiten. Boys. The boy Roberts, Whiten. and
Whiten, and you've got Andy Halliday. You've got the boy Andy Irving. I mean, I think they've got so there's goals in the team, and so the other teams I would think are going to have to score 2 and 3 goals to beat Hearts. And as I say, you've asked me to put myself out there. I think it would be very hard to do, but I do think they've got the players in the Championship that could go and do something like that.
Roughie, did Herring play?
Yes, I was impressed with him. He came on the second half. Jamie Walker was in there as well. He was impressive. Halkett at the back, Craig Gordon in goal. A couple of young boys on the fringes. Strong side.
Did Levine and Mackay play?
No, they were on the bench. They never got.
No, they were on the bench.
They got a chance.
That's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to know if Levine's still in power and he was on the bench. That's fine. Okay.
Peter, you're talking. Ian McCall's obviously said top 6, but you're going to get probably not a great judgment because they've not played as many games as Hibs. But you're going to get a good judgment where they are in the semi-final of the Cup.
Yeah. Oh well, listen, absolutely, because I was reading the Edinburgh Evening News because I still like to stay in touch with all things Edinburgh, and Robbie Nielsen clearly wants the game to go ahead. Halloween, 5 p.m. kickoff. It's a strange one, but nevertheless, it's not affecting fans. They can't moan that they have to travel all the way through to Glasgow because they're not coming. It's as simple as that. But I mean, I'm looking there, and I think, you know, as soon as you opened your mouth there, Darren, John Syme, Jambos will do well, solid squad. Paul Wallace, on the other hand, says, take that drink off Darren, for God's sake. And Kenny Whitson has just basically says, Darren, this is not the show for you. So clearly, there are a few out there who are not having any of your Jambo nonsense. And believe me, Hugh, I know what it's like to back the Jambos. You get it in the neck if you stick by them. Because I had a whole summer of it.
Quite, but the whole point about giving opinion is as I've known for my vaccine talk last week and other things over the years, is you're going to get people coming back, and that's great because that's, I mean, it's so cliche. Football's about opinions, but football is about, you know, putting forward views and see if they work out. I mean, I'm really interested in Darren's views about you know, the Hearts Invincibles as well, because they do seem a level. I mean, they do seem a level above. Now, Darren's alluded to this as well. We all know that, you know, you go to Gayfield on a wet Tuesday night, or, you know, whatever. You know, things can happen to teams. But I think that point that Dan made about there's goals in the team, like teams might have to score 2, maybe 3 to beat Hearts. I think that's a crucial point. You know, I think that stays, because if you're talking about a front 3 of Whiten, who I've always liked, and I know Darren's always liked. I mean, he was 16, 17. When he was 16 and 17 coming through at Dundee, he was the next big thing. Had horrible injuries. But the other two forwards they've got is Steve Naismith, who was Scotland's saviour less than a year ago, and Liam Boyce, who's a 5, 6, 7 grand, whatever rumour you want to believe, striker as well. I mean, that's potent in the Championship here.
Yeah, let's not bum them up though to the point of you know,
Why not?
You know, well, exactly. But I looked at them last season and I opened my big fat gob and suggested that they would be able to get themselves out of the mess. They would eventually be strong enough to get away from the relegation position that they were in. But what do I know? A couple of WhatsApp phone calls later with Roughie and his scurrilous mob, and they were relegated.
Yeah, I would just like to say that it was a lovely Saturday. You know, both teams hand in hand and happy and chatting away and our best pals.
We stood by you. We stood by you. Yeah, absolutely. Only they knew your WhatsApp group, you shower of two-faced morons, the lot of you. Anyway, apart from anything else. And Kenny Whitson's just said, Charlie Adam to burst Darren's bubble first game. Listen, that's the joy of it. Of course, listen, somebody said to me the other day there, you know, I was in the press box and he goes, can you imagine they can't finish the season or they can't even start the season in the Championship? I mean, Hearts would be pulling their hair out. When you think about it, there's only so many kicks in the teeth you can give a team, Hugh.
Well, yeah, and this situation unfolds at tremendous speed. I mean, I remember, Peter, and you'll remember too, way back when COVID was just thing, we were talking about maybe last season. I don't think last season will, you know, the season we're talking about in March. We were saying on the radio, I don't think this season will end. I don't see how they can end it. And the amount of pelters they got from that was astonishing. and then you say things like, I don't think there'll be fans in, you know, certainly I don't think there'll be fans in at the start of next season. Absolute pelters again. Yeah. Now it's like now we're battening down to what's coming looming over the horizon very, very quickly, as people say, well, I don't think there'll be fans in the stadium at all this season. Now that would be, if you're talking about apocalypse, my goodness. But how can you rule anything out now? I can't.
No, I can't, and I don't want to be doom and gloom about it. I want to try and put an optimistic spin on today's programme because the sun is shining. But Brian Roberts is certainly, he's got the boots on, he's got the studs, he's sharpened them up, and he says, £50 bet with Darren, they don't. money to a charity of his choice. That's the bet that I like right away. Brian Roberts knows exactly what's happening 3 weeks from now. Well, what a win for Dundee, Roughie. 4-0. Hearts gave it. Hearts were unbelievable. They were ranked rotten. It's one of those ones.
Peter,
Listen,
I never said they will. I said they had the squad that could.
yeah, there we go. Let's wind it in. Listen, this is all about opinions. The other thing I was going to say, talking of Hearts, boy, I don't know about you, I love reading great stories. Hickey, the Hickey story was fantastic. Because he plays 80 minutes, Roughie. They are I think Mihailovic, who's the manager there at Bologna, he was very complimentary about him. He said, great future, great kid, great attitude. And of course, for the fans that were there and the members of the Bologna backroom staff, he got a standing ovation coming off.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic for the boy to even go over there and take on the challenge, and then to get thrown in so quickly and have a good game. And I hope they keep him in. I know the regular boy's injured just now, but no, I hope he does enough to get a good run in the team, because at the end of the day, again, we're going to get another fullback. We're going to get another young Scottish guy coming through into our national side eventually. So yeah, I hope he gets a good run. He seems a young, sensible boy.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, lots of people, George Mullen says, I don't know, this is for me and you, Ruff, he says, that's the Burke and Hare in Edinburgh on the phone, Peter, asking if the panel's coming to the reopening night. To be perfectly honest with you, Ruffy, I'd go to any reopening night if I thought we could stay beyond 10 o'clock. I mean, it's been a long time, Ruffy. I don't know about you, but I'm not sure you'll remember your after-dinner script the first time you go back.
Well, let's be serious. It's not going to be any different for the other one.
I was going to say, Peter. I'm going to say, Peter, that Roughie might not remember it, but the audience will.
Yeah. Oh, listen. By the way, I still not Hugh. As many a person who's seen Roughie speak, and he's a good act and great chat, good stories that he tells from his days. I have to say though, the stories that he has in the back catalogue that he doesn't use could be absolutely blistering. Every now and then he'll come out with a nugget, and I think to myself, why don't you put that in your act? I mean, it's just absolutely fantastic. But the best one I ever had, Hugh, was when he had the chance to do a doubler. He had 2 nights. He had 2 gigs in the one night. So he was going to the first one. He was going to do that, and then he was going to leave early so that he'd come over to us, the plebs at the smaller venue. But what I had prepped the entire audience, and I told the 200 people in there, listen, this moron's gone to a better gig and thinks you're all beneath him, right? So I had them all wound up to the point where I says, now the one thing about Roughie I know is he's the housewife's favourite on this show. He's so soft. I said, so boo him when he comes in. He'll hate that first of all. I said, but then if you can, every gag that he does, straight face, no laughs. Well, honestly, Hugh, it was magnificent. He walked into the venue, they booed him. I mean, honestly, you could have seen his face, and they're booing him. And it's Wishaw, so they're booing him and swearing at the same time. So he's the absolute villain. And he goes up on stage to a round of boos, starts his act, does his first gag. Nothing. 200 people just staring at his face, no laughs. Gets to his second gag, nothing. And by this time, he is raging. There's beads of sweat coming down his face because he thinks, I'm dying, nobody likes me. And then in the third one, a wee guy at the front tried to hold in his laugh and then burst out laughing. And Roughie, in his usual, turned round to me and gave me absolute belters because he knew I'd prepped the entire audience. That's got to be your worst night, Roughie, isn't it?
Oh, that was horrendous. And anybody who's ever stood in front of 200 people and they're just staring at you is a horrible feeling. But no, they buckled eventually, Hugh. There's only so much. You have to buckle sometime.
sometimes.
Roughie, I've done it in front of 50,000, never mind 200.
Absolutely. Anyway, apart from it all, thank you to everyone who's mentioned, the type of players that they need. I know lots of teams certainly won't want to lose key players, whether it's Celtic at Edouard and Rangers with Morelos or Kent. Niall is talking about Alan Campbell. Will he stay? Will Hibs be able to prize him away from Motherwell now? Are they interested now? Will they wait till he comes out of contract? And over and above that, Hibs have been looking at players. Hearts have signed their players. We will keep across that all the way through until the window closes. We'll also bring you all the managers and players coming up this week ahead of the final fixtures in the Scottish Premiership before we break for, of course, the Scotland game against Israel. And don't forget, this week we'll also preview Sarajevo against Celtic and Rangers against Galatasaray. It's a huge night. Just before we go, guys, Darren, do you still see two Scottish teams in the hat after these two qualifiers?
I do, Peter, yes. I think Rangers have been fantastic in Europe, especially being at home. And I know you're not going to have the fans there, but just comfortable at home, and their performances have been great. And yes, I do. I see Celtic, again, they score goals, and I see them both going through.
Hugh, it's going to be tight in both games. I think it's going to be as tight as just a goal, similar to Celtic and Riga. And I think Rangers at home, the way he's got them playing, I think they could nick it as well.
Yeah, I think one of the Gerard's been criticised, and properly so, for not winning it in domestically. There's been a lot of criticism of that, but nobody can doubt how he and Michael Beale have went about things and are going about things, in European football. And I think that might Galatasaray is a tough ask in a playoff, but I think Rangers might just have enough to get through.
Yeah, Roughie, hold your wish on this, because we'll get your thoughts on it on Wednesday and Thursday as well. Fingers crossed we've got both teams going through at the expense of Galatasaray and Sarajevo. We'll hear from the managers in the build-up to that this week on this programme. Managers' interviews, players talking. It's Scotland's #1 football show, and it's because of you. Thank you to the thousands upon thousands subscribing to the programme and watching it on a daily basis, not only in the UK, but all across the globe. There are so many people actually putting some lovely messages to us. The T-shirts are on the way to the people we promised T-shirts to. This week we're going to select even more and send out more T-shirts to you, just to get you that feel-good factor. If you're feeling a little bit down, we'll give you your fix of football. Don't forget, like, share and follow us on our Facebook. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you share our programme with your pals, we'll have a look at all the list of people, and we're going to be picking out people who will win our T-shirts. And I can tell you, we have 10 Legends T-shirts, canvases and prints in our shop, but we've added another 11. And they are very, very special indeed. Exclusive paintings by Jim Scullion, the famous sports artist. And I think you're going to like them. And some of the T-shirts I think you might want to get your hands on. Anyway, just a little teaser for you. Like, share and follow. Subscribe to us as well. Roughie, Hugh McDonald, Darren Jackson, myself, Peter Martin, as ever, say to you, we'll see you tomorrow. But thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.